Hello, thank you all so much for joining us today to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Women Waging Peace Network. It's a powerful network of women peace builders from all around the world. My name is Brianna Mobby, and I have the pleasure of being the Program Officer for Women, Peace, and Security at the Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice at the University of San Diego. The core of the Kroc IPJ mission is to co-create learning with peacemakers, learning that is deeply grounded in the lived experience of peacemakers around the world, that is made rigorous by our place within a university ecosystem, and that is immediately and practically applied by peacemakers to end cycles of violence. Together with women peacebuilders and international women peace and security organizations, the Kroc IPJ identifies the most critical peacebuilding challenges facing women leaders around the world, including partners in the Women Waging Peace Network. We then co-develop applied and actionable research to identify evidence-based solutions. So thank you all so much for being here with us to celebrate today. We're here today to talk about the Women Waging Peace Network. Since 1999, Women Waging Peace members have been hand-selected to join the one-of-a-kind global network that works to end cycles of violence. With over 1,000 women peacebuilder members from over 100 countries, the network drives forward evidence-based approaches to building more inclusive and peaceful societies. The network was originally founded by Inclusive Security, and so today we want to recognize and thank all of those folks at Inclusive Security that built this network into what it is. The network has been hosted by us here at the Kroc IPJ since 2017, and it's been a real pleasure to work with everyone. The Women Waging Peace Network has been the foundation for multiple key partnerships, including the Uganda Next Gen project, who you see here in the photo right here, the Supporting Her Empowerment, Women's Inclusion and New Security, or She Wins project, which is funded by the U.S. Department of State, and a partnership with West Point Academy. The Women Waging Peace Network provides opportunities for women peace builders to learn from each other, make connections, and engage with leaders and researchers in the women, peace, and security field. The network also provides grants to members on an annual basis and has grown to be a powerful and inclusive international community of peace-building experts who are committed to ending cycles of violence through partnerships and initiatives, including by creating original research. Here on this slide, you can see an example of some of that original research. These are publications from across the last few years, including our most recent annual report. I'll highlight for you all in the audience today that we'll have a new of the annual report coming up in early 2025. That annual report is a survey of our network members, so leveraging the global expertise of women peacemakers to understand what are the priorities for peace building in the coming year, and what are challenges, what are successes that have been made over the last year. So I encourage you all to stay tuned, that we'll have a new report coming out in early 2025. So thank you again for being here to celebrate with all of us. I'm going to turn it over to an amazing panel of speakers. And I'm eager to invite you all to learn with us today about the many different amazing things that our members are doing and the way that networks are so critical. I've spent a lot of my career as a researcher, and study after study, both that I've worked on and that I've read by others, really emphasize that networks, relationships, and solidarity are critical for women peace builders so they can feel supported, so they have partners to call upon when they face challenges, and for keeping themselves safe when they need to. Today, we're going to hear from several members of our network, each highlighting different parts of the work of the network and different parts of the world that they work in. But the common thread for everyone is that connection, that importance of networking and being in solidarity with each other. I'm excited to introduce our first panelist, Lima Anwari. Folks join our network in a range of different ways, and we're pleased to add people to the network every year. Lima joined the Women Waging Peace Network after she visited the Kroc IPJ here in San Diego through the Onward for Afghan Women project, which is led by the Kroc Institute for Women, Peace, and Security. This group of Afghan women leaders worked to translate their considerable skills and knowledge to the U.S. context. And I'm proud to introduce you to Lima today. She's a strong advocate for the inclusion of youth, marginalized ethnic groups, and women in the peacebuilding process in Afghanistan. A well-known youth activist, she champions the causes of youth education and political participation and has almost 10 years of experience working on policy development, gender issues, human rights, juvenile justice, training and mentoring, and legal affairs with various international organizations, including UN Women, the International Development Law Organization, and the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. Lima, thank you for being with us today. Please tell us about why connections among women peace builders, especially when adjusting to challenging circumstances, are so important.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak about a topic that is deeply personal to me, especially the importance of connections among women peace builders, especially when we are navigating the challenging circumstances. So, as an Afghan woman, my journey has been shaped by immense challenges and, more importantly, by the strength I have found in the connections I have built along the way. Women in Afghanistan, like women in so many other conflict affected regions, they carry the heaviest burdens in times of crisis. But yet, also, we emerge as the most determined advocates for peace, education, and justice. We believe that these connections are so important because they provide the strength and solidarity. When we women came together, whether in our own communities or across the borders, so we became more stronger and we share experiences, resources, and strategies. So these connections transform the individual efforts into collective actions. For instance, Afghan women who flee persecution under the Taliban, we joined forces with women from other conflict zones to advocate for a universal access to education. That's why together we are louder and harder to ignore. These connections, I think, foster an exchange of ideas and solutions. And every region, every community has its own unique challenges. But often the strategies to overcome them can inspire others. When Afghan women connect with peace builders from other regions, we learn ways to amplify our voices, influence policymakers, and hold onto hope, even in our very darkest time that Afghanistan is right now the only country that the education is banned for girls and the women are totally erased from the society. So the importance of these connections goes beyond practical support. It's also about emotional resilience. When I reflect on my own journey from fleeing Kabul in 2021 to rebuilding my life in the United States, I realize how much I relied on the women around me, women who understood my pain, who shared my dreams, and who reminded me that I'm not alone in this journey. So these relationships were my anchor, and they allowed me to regain strength and continue advocating for women's rights, especially for Afghan girls whose future are being stolen. In challenging circumstances, connections among women peace builders actually they became lifelines. When I forced into exile, I often feel uprooted, as though my voice has been silenced. But through these networks, I found ways to adapt and rebuild. And Afghan women in the diasporas, we formed global alliances to keep the fight alive for education, for justice, and also for inclusive Afghanistan. It is through these connections that we heal, we find hope, and also we keep moving forward. And they remind us that even in exile, even in the most difficult times, our work is peace builders. That is not ending, it is simply evolves. Um, so there is another follow-up question on this that, okay, so what does this mean for all of us here today that we are coming and celebrating the 25 years of the network? I would say that we must actively support and nurture these connections, the platforms, the mentoring programs, and even like this. These are really crucial and important, and they allow us to build bridges, share the stories, and strengthen our collective efforts. I would like to end my speech with a personal reflection. When I'm looking back at the hardships that I have faced, the pain of displacement, the challenges of rebuilding my life, and also the English of watching my country suffer, I am reminded of the women who stood beside me. Their courage gave me courage. Their resilience became my resilience. As a women peace builders, we cannot afford to work in isolation. And so together we can transform the challenges we face into opportunities for change. And together we can ensure that no woman stands alone in the pursuit of peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Lima, very much for your reflections on your experience and the importance of amplifying our voices together. Thank you so much. We're going to go next to our next panelist, Amna Popovats. Within the network, there are many different programs that we offer, many different opportunities for network members. And for many years, the network had a partnership with the West Point Academy, where cadets from that academy would go spend time with a network member like Amna and learn about conflict issues, the role of civil society leaders, and how gender matters in conflict. So I'm very happy to introduce you all to Amna, who will speak a bit about that experience and how the network helped build peace in that way. Amna is an IT engineer with a master's degree in business management. She's a guest lecturer at universities in Bosnia and Herzegovina for topics like leadership, communication, business communication, entrepreneurship, and social entrepreneurship. She loves to work with young people to help fulfill their full potential and to have a happy and prosperous life. She's engaged in empowering women so they are fully integrated throughout formal and informal peace processes to prevent violent conflict, stop war, and sustain peace in fragile regions. Amna, thank you for being with us. Please tell us about your role in hosting the cadets and how this helped advance peace building.
Thank you, Brianna, for this opportunity, and I would like to congratulate all of us for this 25th anniversary of Women Waging Peace. It helped me to become who am I, and to help me to, let's say, spread this spirit of togetherness and support among women and the people all over the world. So our journey and my journey with with West Point Cadets started in 2016 when for the first time I was contacted and offered this opportunity to host these young students, and I really didn't know what to expect. You know, being I was a student when war started in ex-Yugoslavia in the region where I live, and I was also a student when I worked in reconstruction and return forces to rebuild life in this region and in my country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm coming from the city that is called Mostar, and most means a bridge in our language. So actually, I'm living in the city where the bridges and building bridges is really important. So I'm the one, and I devoted my life to building bridges among the people, between the people. So this opportunity to work with young cadets helped me to actually build the bridge between two continents and between young people with completely different background, religion, and various, and even knowledge based, everything, to build the bridges between them. And it was really interesting and empowering for me, for cadets, and for my other colleagues who had the chance to meet the cadets, because they were visiting various NGOs. I was offering them experience rather than one project on which they will be able to work. So I was exposing them to various religious. They were visiting various NGOs working with disabled people, helping homeless people, helping people to rebuild their houses and everything. And some of the cadets got so empowered that they even dived from the old bridge. So old bridge is very famous, and we have Red Bull actually competition every year. It's very dangerous, not easy to jump from our old bridge in Mostar, but they got courage and enough and strong enough, and they managed to sometime even to jump from the bridge. So interesting thing happened during these my, let's say, I didn't host only in 2020 during pandemic. All other years I had one or two cadets, mainly female cadets, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I'm really happy that West Point has more and more women finishing and having good positions in U.S. Army. So some of them returned a couple times to Bosnia and Herzegovina afterwards. Some of them came to visit American Corner in Mostar, and they gave lectures and they connected their high schools in US with high schools in Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it was really a good, positive example of building bridges among the people. And that's the way, actually, by knowing each other, by not having a fear of the other person, of the other religion, the other people with the other color and ethnical background, that is the way how to build peace and how to build prosperous life and peaceful societies all over the world. This is what with this I will finish and I will pass a word to you.
Thank you so much, Amna. Thank you for your leadership in this work, and thank you for sharing your experience and the way you've shaped other people's lives as well. Thank you. Next, I'm happy to introduce you all to Grace Nakarija Lwanga. She's a leader in our Ugandan Next Gen initiative. This is a 3-year program the Kroc IPJ led in Uganda, looking at intergenerational peace building among women there. We funded partnerships between a more senior and a more junior women peacemaker, and over the course of 3 years, learned together what are the challenges of that work, what are the successes and achievements of that work. And so I'm happy to have Grace talk to us about that work today and the importance of building a community in that way. Grace Nakarija Lwanga has 20 years experience in advocacy, gender-based violence prevention and response, promotion of maternal and sexual reproductive health and rights, climate justice, and gender transformative and responsive policies. She's the founder of Chapter for Empowerment and Rights Uganda, where she is the chief executive officer. She previously worked with MIFUMI and the Center for Domestic Violence Prevention. Grace, thank you so much for being with us. Please tell us a bit about why using an intergenerational lens is so important and how connection is key to passing along knowledge and opening opportunities for younger peace builders. And I'll just flag that we have a great report out based on this. I had it up on the screen earlier, and I'll have a link for you later. So please make sure and go read about the amazing work that our partners, including Grace, did. Grace, please go ahead.
Thank you, Brianna. Working with actually women waging peace under the development of the intergenerational framework was very inspiring. Today, as Grace, I take on work I started when I was only 8 years old. Today, using the intergenerational framework, we are able to understand issues of intersectionality when it comes to peace building and ending cycle of violence. Very basically, we have also learned that sometimes even when the younger people want to move on, as in daughters, lived experiences of violence by their mothers and grandmothers, actually, if not supported, they can still continue that of violence. So we gotten into the deeper analysis of the intergenerational framework in terms of implementation. Through the intergenerational framework, we learned that in most cases, when it comes to ending cycles of violence against women and girls, the social networks are powerful, are very powerful compared to the professional networks, actually. And for us, that has really pushed us through. And also the power to move on, even when things are very difficult. Like you have an issue, but you have all people of ages around you. They are giving you support, information. You are even able to tailor and adapt their methodologies. For us, that has really been key as a group, and also keeping the group active. Like all the time, you are thinking, what is it out there? What learning can we take there? But you are able to check, does this learning cater for all ages across the ecological model? And as they are fitting into the ecological model, we are also benchmarking and adapting our intergenerational framework.
I'll also highlight that Grace is a member of our network that has received a grant through the network to travel and present the Uganda Next Gen report that we talked about a bit earlier. I want to highlight a couple of initiatives that, different partners have touched on or we haven't focused fully on yet. One of our panelists, Lillian Rizik, isn't able to join us today due to a family issue, and we're sending her best wishes. She was going to talk quite a bit about the grants program that we have. Lillian received a grant to do business leadership coaching, and particularly around communication styles. So we offer grants to the network to kind of do two things. One is individual capacity building, like the example that Lillian had, where she wanted to build her own skills as a leader in this field. And we also offer grants to allow people to travel to a conference or an event they might not be able to get to otherwise. And we like to target these grants toward that level of funding that we find it's often hard for women peace leaders to access. Oftentimes, folks are participating in grant applications for an entire program, but it can be really hard to find money just to get to that meeting you need to get to. And so the goal of the network is that we fill that level of funding for our network members, and we open grant applications every year. I'll also highlight another program. We produced a report on women's leadership in high-level mediation and negotiation. It was on the research slide I shared earlier. Another of our panelists who wasn't able to be with us today, Rubina Rupimwa, was going to highlight the importance of those conversations. We brought women peace leaders from around the world together in multiple consultative sessions where they shared their experiences at high-level negotiations and mediation processes, the challenges and benefits of that, the strategies they used, and their advice for other folks who might be in that position in the future. And we found that it's a really important guide and helpful for folks thinking about how to get more women involved in these processes and also pass along knowledge about how other women have done it, particularly when faced with obstacles or folks that don't want them at the table. So I encourage you all to take a look at that report if you're able. I think it's a really powerful tool, especially when so many places around the world are either heading into peace talks, engaged in peace talks, but women aren't at the table. And how can we use these tools to advocate for greater women's leadership and more inclusive leadership in general at the peace table?
Okay, thank you so much, Brianna. Actually, let me continue from where I stopped. The power of using the intergenerational framework is so strong when it comes to institutionalization of justice institutions. We have been able to strengthen access to justice because we have met the leaders of these institutions. These are government institutions, and shared with them the experiences, the lived experiences of women and girls in conflict setting, but also in the humanitarian sector and the development sector as well. Specific to all, they have changed many practices. For example, allocating days when they can listen to young people with their cases or situations, and also allocating days when they can listen to the older women. Then young people's institutions that are supporting pro bono work, for example, offering pro bono services, but also as civil society, we have been able to grow our movements because of these many learnings. Specifically, we have a movement that promotes referral linkages, that is on gender-based violence and referral. So all the time, even as we develop the principles for these movements, we are asking ourselves, are we catering for everyone, for every woman, for example, despite the age? And when we do that, we go back to even check on their different needs and what works for them. And before you know, we have become our services and even the networks are becoming relevant because everyone feels they are part of the journey. But also beyond that, given the scarcity of resources and maybe the dwindling funding in Uganda, you find that if we work alone, we may not go far. For example, very recently, I was able to participate at a conference, that is the Sexual Violence Research Institute conference in Cape Town. I'm happy that Women Waging Peace actually funded me, sponsored me to contributed some money. But again, the women's movement, like people were like, we can't go, we don't have enough resources, but we can package our messages, all of us, we top up something, and then you go and represent us. So I was able to talk about a range of issues: gender-based violence, violence against women, for example, disability, obstetric fistula. To me, this was really a plus. And the entire team was there to critique the writing, the presentation, to ensure that issues of all women of all ages are actually covered. Very recently, we were happy to we joined Urgent Action Fund convening in Kampala, where they were asking us about how the intergenerational framework works. And at the end of the convening, this was a convening by grantees of Urgent Action Fund and Women's Movement in Uganda. So when we shared how our intergenerational framework has worked, members recommended that that is the way to go. For example, young feminists should be able to work with the older feminists. However, there was need for that linkage so that the two teams can really get together. So given some as in Uganda as the Uganda Next Gen, we feel very relevant, and all the time we are seeing how we can adapt and tailor the intergenerational framework. Most recently, we have taken or centered the framework into agriculture, mainly in cash crop growing, and specifically coffee. So we want to see how agriculture and the intergenerational framework in ending cycles of GBV supports the individual women taking part into the whole coffee growing, planting, weeding. How are their lives? How are they connecting to each other? But where are the young people? So in there, this is a new program which Women Win has just supported us to do. And we are happy. I'm happy to announce that again, we shall be using the intergenerational framework. But everyone out there is interested in learning more about this intergenerational framework. And even during 16 days, which we just concluded a day before, I think yesterday but one, the catchy message, the take-home message for everyone was using and learning how to use the intergenerational framework, which again, at many platforms, even at community level, people recognize that if we are to fight, if we are to actually do away with social injustices, if we are to approach them, if we are to end violence, if we are to lobby for resources from government and even implementation, the intergenerational framework is a strategy, it's an approach that is very relevant and makes sense. And one of the district people was reporting how our knowledge we gave them on the intergenerational framework has enabled them reflect about how they budgets that affect the entire stepping back and having a generational framework makes them. Thank you, Brianna. I have a lot I could share, but let me give opportunity to other people as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you for sharing your personal expertise, the way that you work together within the Uganda Next Gen project, and highlighting the importance of the intergenerational framework. And I think showing the power of women-led initiatives, women-led research within this field, showing with partners how to do work better and more inclusive, in a more inclusive fashion. Thank you so much for sharing us, and thank you for battling through the connection challenges. It was lovely to hear from you. I'd like to introduce our next panelist, Maha Awad, who joined us through the She Wins project, which is a U.S. Department of State funded project The Kroc IPJ helps manage this project under the leadership of Search for Common Ground. And so Maha plays a key role in the advisory group, providing advice, guidance on flexible funding for women peace leaders in Yemen. Maha Awad is a gender expert focused on women's rights and gender equality, the chair of Wugud Foundation for Human Security, the coordinator of the Yemeni Feminist Summit, and a member of the consulting committee for the institutional structure of the National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security. Maha, thank you for being with us. Please tell us why being part of a network of women leaders is so important.
Hi, everyone. Hi, ladies. Thank you, Brianna, for this meeting. I need to speak about my experience with the Women Wing Peace and how we can start it with the advisory group with WINS to knowledge about more learn about on women peace security agenda, and in my experience at in my foundation commitment of to work with the main targets groups for its work, women and girls, and prominent rules in terms working on women issues by the design will envelop around women issues. I think I have or I get a good opportunity to more experience when get member with the Women Wing Peace to more learn from each other about make connections and exchange on with the research and about on women peace security and in field. The network also provide opportunity to discuss of how network Women Wing Peace help women peace builders and more peaceful communities. This is a new added for my experience, and I think cross-cutting with other with our job in reality for with the feminist summit in Yemen, Yemeni feminist summit. We implementing to supporting the feminist movement and its role in the national quality framework and to developing advocacy strategy generally to have stronger impact of feminist movement, like providing opportunities women to contribute to developing their visions towards our peace and security, supporting women ideas, visions, and perspectives related to the peace process and the traditional phases, and all of I think what I say all of more experience to get in make expanded the space for the participation with the drives groups with the wing like project in Ogan, how we can, I think we know knowledge more through partnership initiatives and how we can works together or works with the learn from others partnership in other countries and peace building expertise, and in the network drives forward and evidence-based approaches to building more inclusive, peaceful societies, and founded by inclusive security, like Uganda project. This is I think is a great experience to with me as a personality and with my work in our foundations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maha. Thank you for being with us, especially when you were traveling. Thank you very much for your guidance of the She Wins project as well. We're going to wrap up in just a moment, but I want to ask the panel if you had one kind of vision for the network over the next few years. If you had to summarize that in maybe one sentence around the importance of connection, the importance of relationship building with other peace builders, what would your hope be for yourself, for your work over the next few years out of this network? Amna, perhaps we can go to you.
I hope we can be or become more louder, so that we could not stop current wars, but at least prevent the new ones. We really need to build more bridges among people, especially young generations, especially in this time when artificial intelligence is making a big influence on our lives. So I hope that we as humans who still remember what it means to meet each other and exchange experience and learn from each other can be more loud in the future. This is what we need to be in order to be heard in this time when we are all bombarded with the various news, when sometimes not that are sometimes not 100% true. So let's become more loud, let's say, in the future. This is what I would expect from us, would like to see us in the future.
Thank you so much, Amna. I love that. Being louder, being clearer, being more a strong force in the world for peace. Lima, the question is, what would you like to see from the network in terms of connection, relationships over the next few years?
Exactly. So actually, my vision for this network is to create an inclusive and resilient community where the meaningful connections inspire collective actions, amplify marginalized voices, and also drive lasting change for gender equality and social justice. Again, I'm giving an example of the issues that we as Afghan women are facing, the challenges that we faced. It is something beyond my beyond explanation and everything. So that's why I want, like, we as a community, we have to have this commitment to nurturing and expanding this network and continue to lift one another up by sharing our knowledge generously and also stand together with each other in the face when there is a challenge.
Thank you so much, Lima. Grace, how about you?
Thank you, Brianna, and thank you, everyone. For me, whenever I listen in to the members, everyone has their story. So moving forward, I would request that maybe we look for some resources where we document the lived experiences of the different peace builders, but the best practices. So we document them for the younger generation, because sometimes they listen in and they are not able to share with others. Maybe we could run podcasts, we could run learning events, because sometimes even when we have such forums, some people don't participate, but when you share the knowledge, everyone is excited about the knowledge. Otherwise, if we don't, the knowledge will actually go with the older people as they retire yet it is very, very key given the dynamics of women and girls in this universe. They are changing every time. So we could just be deliberate that maybe every month we are running something globally, either learning paper or something. And I know that among us, there are people who can really, really write insights. Even if someone can't write their story, we could just record them speaking, and then we actually adapt, tailor, get the best practices out of their words and experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace. Ma, do you have a thought for your vision for how this network can be part of building connections over the next few years?
Yes, I think we need to more work in as not as a basis for the strength and efforts the feminist movement, and with the different relations and the levels in locally and global and it's the different levels forward arrange the works together, support each other through at the solidarity and cooperative and integral approach, and how we can do as strategic look frame to make a partnership and support the more initiatives can demand for in devoting strong as a political and social wars for the peace, human rights and democracy, and increase its impact to make on making change more initiative and transformed in additions to call or to the call towards working to continue discrimination and violence, as well as human rights violations and women rights and women peace security agenda, and how we can make strong the network with strategic systematically, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to Lima, Amna, Grace, Maha for being with us today. I also want to thank my colleagues Ren Flanders and Ashley Boren for making this event possible. And I see in the audience we have many other members of the Women Waging Peace Network. So I also want to thank all of you, not just for being here today, but for being such critical parts of this work, the network's work, but also work to build a better, safer world for all of us. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for joining us today to celebrate 25 years of the Women Waging Peace Network, for recognizing that women's leadership in building peace is critical for building safer communities around the world. And I want to echo what our different panelists have told us today, to Lima's point about coming together to find ways to amplify our voices, that we're stronger together. To Amna's point about building the spirit of togetherness and support, building that bridge with other people. To Grace's point about leadership, documenting how women are leaders, the work that women are doing, sharing best practices with each other. And Maha's points about building from or learning from partnerships and truly taking a transformative lens as we think about this work, that we should be changing how we think about peace and conflict and build new visions for what an inclusive, peaceful community looks like. You can follow this QR code on the screen to check out our website. We have profiles of many of the members there. You can find the research from the network there. And so I hope you'll take time to check that out and particularly look at the research that the network has put out. It is such an honor for me to work with network members, to work with you all, to learn from you, and to help raise our voices together in the cause of peace. And I don't take it lightly that this network exists. that it's an opportunity for women across conflicts, across cultures, across communities to come together and think together about challenges, support each other in this very difficult work, and to share solidarity in a very powerful way. Thank you so much to all of you for the work that we do together and for 25 years of that type of connection and community. Thank you very much for joining today. Have a great holiday season.